Okay, number 1 seed, Cinco Wacky Rig meets number 16, the Mystery Lure. This one's not really fair, but that's how the matchup goes, right? 1 versus 16. Wacky Rig kind of revolutionized the way I fish, as opposed to the Mystery Lure. I had no idea where this thing came from. Found it in an old tackle box somewhere, I guess, but I have no idea what it is. I've reached out to a few folks. I've even searched on the internet, and if you can't find out what it is on the internet, then I have no idea where to even look. If you got any clues, let me know. But anyway, Cinco Wacky Rig takes this one in a blowout. Got a battle of poppers here with the pop art number 8 and the skitter pop at number 9. This is a perfect example of how the manufacturers imitate each other. So you got the success of the pop art prompts Rapala to throw their hat in the ring in the surface popping baits with their skitter pop. For me, I mean, the skitter pop looks like a pretty cool bait. It's got nice action, but somehow or another, it's just never topped the old Pop-R. In this case, flattery gets you nowhere. Pop-R takes the win. All right, here we have number 5, the Rapala Rattlin' Wrap versus number 12, an Underspin. Both of these are just building on another concept. The Rattlin' Wrap is an imitation Rapala's model of the Bill Lewis rattle trap, while the Underspin is just a bigger, bulked up brother of something called the Roadrunner. In this case, I just have never gotten the hang of these Underspins, even though I've seen some pretty quality fish submitted that have been caught on them, and I actually like the Rattlin' Wrap better than the original rattle trap. So for that reason, no underdog victory for the Underspin. We're going with the Rattlin' Wrap. Next up, we got number 4, the Rapala Floating Minnow versus number 13, the Devil's Horse. Both of these are kind of surface or just subsurface baits. You got the Rapala Minnow that kind of ripples the surface, while the Devil's Horse rips the surface. Subtle versus commotion. Both of these can be effective presentations. You just got to let the bass tell you what they want. But there's no way that I can pass up the Rapala with a victory in this one. One of the first baits that I ever was introduced to for bass fishing. Shout out to Dad, as the Rapala is a classic. All right, here we got number 6, the Yum Dinger versus number 11, the Jitterbug. The Yum Dinger, cool name, cheaper version of a wacky worm. Jitterbug, this is actually a jitter stick that I got here. That's an old school bait there that, you know, if you're my age, you would have found in your dad's or your grandpa's tackle box. It can also be found these days at kind of a knockoff rate. Too many other can't miss lures and the latest thing to hit the market, you know, sell like hotcakes, whereas these old classics kind of get lost in the shuffle. But for me, I'm going to get nostalgic on this one. I'm going with the Jitterbug. Next up, we got number 3, the Man's Baby 1- Crankbait versus number 14, the Fluke. Now, Man's Bait Company, you got to give them a thumbs up. They took the 20 plus, which was a victor in one of the other regions already. 20 plus went to a depth unheard of in crankbaits before. This was the exact opposite end of that spectrum, just barely under the surface. Bass had seen everything thrown at them in that region, and they needed something different. The Man's Baby 1- was just what they needed. That wide wobble subsurface is a killer. Fluke was the same way. Now, it's just subsurface too. It's a little bit more erratic. Kind of, you never know where it was going to go when you made a twitch on it. But I still, in this case, give the shout out and the victory to the Man's Baby 1-. Well, how about another popper battle? Number 7, Hula Popper versus number 10, the Poppin' Frog. Now, the Hula Popper, this is something, again, that you found in your dad's or your grandpa's tackle box, if you're my age. And this one actually looks like it probably came from one of those tackle boxes. This thing's pretty ancient. Might actually be worth some money. As opposed to, this was a Strike King Poppin' Frog. It was just a frog with a big mouth, essentially. Topwater frog darting over the vegetation, but this one made a little bit more commotion with that popping lip. However, I got to go old school on this one. Can't beat the Hula Popper. Next up, number 2, Baby Brush Hog versus number 15, the Touchdown Worm. This is kind of a slowdown game with both of these. Now, the Brush Hog is kind of a mutation of the old plastic lizards. This is my go-to bait around stumps, laydowns, that sort of thing, when it's time to slow down, knock it around, get the bass's attention. Touchdown Worm is an odd one. It's a kind of a variation on the old Worm Gang, and maybe almost a precursor to the Wacky Rig. This one was introduced to me by a friend, old college baseball teammate, fisherman by the name of Clover Joe. But as you can see, this one's still wrapped up as if it's never been used since, probably about 1988 or 89. So definitely going to give a shout out and the victory to the baby brush hog.